One day, two different stories about the same topic of black criminality and whether it is wildly out of proportion. One story is a nightmare. The other's a fairy tale. See if you can tell the difference.
Micah, the LA County Sheriff's Department is in mourning tonight. The victim, a highly decorated sheriff's sergeant who's been on the force for nearly 30 years, killed in the line of duty. And we're told the suspect, an armed burglar who's on active parole. Family, fellow deputies, and firefighters arrive at Antelope Valley Hospital and escort Sergeant Steve Owen's body to the LA County morgue. A show of respect for a popular 29-year vet who made the ultimate sacrifice.
And we're all suffering right now. His family certainly is suffering. His law enforcement family is suffering. It doesn't get worse than this, folks.
LA County Sheriff's officials say 53-year-old Owen was shot and killed while responding to a burglary in progress call around noon. Owen was the first on scene at this Lancaster apartment building. As a second deputy arrived, he heard gunfire.
The deputy at the front of the apartment complex ran to the aid and in the direction of that gunfire, where he found Sergeant Owen suffering from a gunshot wound.
The suspect fled on foot, and the deputy chased after him. The suspect hopped into Sergeant Owen's car to escape. A deputy-involved shooting broke out. The suspect then rammed Owen's cruiser into the second deputy's car before running off. A large containment was set up, and schools went into lockdown.
At that point, we believe the suspect entered yet another location. That location, there were two teenage children who were in that residence who were ultimately able to inform law enforcement of the presence of the suspect at that location.
A special enforcement team made a crisis entry to rescue the teens. The suspect, who's a parolee from the Antelope Valley area, tried to flee out the back door, but eventually surrendered.
The suspect was taken into custody. We believe that he suffers from a gunshot wound to the upper torso. He's been transported to a local area hospital.
We're told Owen was shot in the face and transported to the hospital by fellow deputies. His wife, children, and mother were with him as he passed away, as well as fellow deputies and his friend, Lancaster's Mayor Rex Paris.
I can't tell you what it's like to be with 100 crying police officers. I mean, they were devastated.
And Sheriff Jim McDonald did release a statement tonight saying that the tragedy of a deputy sheriff such as Sergeant Steve Owen making the ultimate sacrifice has a massive impact on the whole law enforcement family. We all mourn together, and our hearts go out especially to Steve's immediate family. Now, Sheriff Jim McDonald has been out of town on department business. However, we're told that he is now on his way home.
Hi, I'm piggyback off of the gun violence. Hi, my name is Ernie, and I am a mother of 3 black African-American boys. And my twins are 18, and my son is 26. And for them to leave the house, I'm a big supporter of Black Lives Matter. And for them, and I also have a daughter. So the reality of a mom with all these children in the community, in the heart of Philadelphia, doing so many things, the gun violence is real for me as a mother, because they can walk out just doing their own thing, minding their business, doing quality of life things, and get pulled over by the police. The policing policies have to stop. It has to be changed. It has to be changed to where the fact that if you have productive children doing productive things and not feel safe, if they're going to just drive over the bridge to Jersey, get pulled over with their hands up in the air, and still get shot. We need policies to change, because that's really a reality to me. What is your intake on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, that is the reality. That is the reality. What she is talking about is what black parents live with every day. I was in Charlotte on Sunday, and I was speaking at a church, and I said, look, I have these 2 absolutely wonderful grandchildren. I will never have to sit them down and tell them to be afraid, to be careful. I will expect them, as she expects her kids, to be law-abiding, but that doesn't always work. And therefore, we've got to do three things. Number one, those of us who aren't in her position need to empathize and understand what it's like when her sons walk out the door to go see their friends or go to school. Putting ourselves in the other's shoes goes a long way in a country as diverse as ours to getting people to really, feel and experience what that is like. Secondly, we've got to do more to reform the criminal justice system. There are so many good, honorable police officers. They need our support. They need our backing. And at the same time, we have to help them get the kind of training and standards that they're looking for to really make it more possible to have every police officer know how to de-escalate situations. It is scary. And I met with a group of young African American men after church in Charlotte, and one of the young men, it was so impressive. He's a barber, and he started a program bringing young African Americans together with local police so they could get to know each other and break down some of the misunderstanding. And he said, as part of the training, he went to one of the simulating training experiences that police officers get. And he said it was eye-opening. Because the first time he was part of a stop, he was a man in the driver's seat, a woman in the passenger seat, and he was part of the police stop as an observer, and he goes up to the window and says, show me your hands. And the man put his hands up, and then his role was to say, okay, step out now. And the woman picked up a gun from the other side of the seat and shot him. That was all simulated. So he said the next time he did a simulation, he was stopping a truck that was driving erratically, and the man in the front seat was being difficult, and he was saying, come on, get out of the car. And a young girl, 11-year-old girl in the car, the truck, picked up a stick, and this young African American man said, I just automatically shot her. We need everybody to work on de-escalating situations, understanding what we all face, because remember, people are scared on both sides of those transactions. And it's important that we work with our communities and work with our police and do everything we can to try to create a bigger zone of safety. I met with the police chiefs of about 10 American cities, big cities. I said, what are your biggest problems? And they said, we are the people called when there are mental health problems. Not mental health experts, call the police, usually by a member of the family, saying, he's off his meds, he's acting crazy, he's threatening us. He said, they say, our forces don't have experience for that. So there's a lot we've got to do, starting with empathy and understanding and putting ourselves in somebody's shoes, criminal justice reform, better training, better standards, dealing with implicit bias, all of those challenges. And then finally, to link the question from this mom to that mom, we got to get guns off the streets and out of the hands of people who are dangerous to the community and dangerous to the police.
So we know what happened with the cop in Los Angeles. He responded to a call for a burglary. A black person killed him. Another white cop dead. Another black person holding the gun. We've heard that story before. Now let's go to the real crazy one. What about the Hillary event? That black woman named Ernie stands up. She opens up by saying, yeah, there's a lot of shootings in Philadelphia. Then she goes, and that's why we have to get the police under control. The police are not shooting black children in Philadelphia, Ernie. You know it. Every little white matron in the audience standing there while you talk knows it. Hillary knows it. Even though as soon as you were done weaving your little fairy tale, you actually said cops are shooting people with hands up, don't shoot. Even though you weaved your little fairy tale, everybody in the room knew it was a fairy tale. Hillary, what did Hillary say? Did she say, oh, I don't know about that, Ernie? No, she said, absolutely. And she went on to describe how cops are picking on black people for no reason whatsoever. Did you hear the little drop-in line in there about implicit bias? No matter what little bones she tossed to the cops during her answer was clear. She's given it thousands of times in the last 2 years. Anybody who's watched her on the campaign trail, as I have, knows the answer. The answer is, black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism, all the way everything. That explains everything, especially why people like Ernie make up fairy tales about cops shooting kids in Philadelphia. Especially why cops are always picking on kids in Philadelphia for no reason whatsoever. Well, here's the real story, Ernie. Black criminality in Philadelphia is wildly off the charts. And it's not the fault of the cops, many of whom are black. It's not the fault of the police chief, who is black. It's not the fault of the city council, who are black. The mayor, who was just in there for 8 years, who was black. We're running out of people to blame for this, Ernie. Could you help me out some? So if we can't blame the cops, I guess we could blame you. But why don't we start blaming the criminals for their behavior and stop blaming the cops? The cops are under threat of black violence, black assault, black harassment, black taunting every day on the job. And you and Hillary just ganged up on them to tell us how much they deserve it because of their implicit bias. Oh, Hillary wants to do the right thing. We want to train them to stop catching black people when they catch crime. That's the only solution. They're already practicing that solution in places like Philadelphia, across the river, in Camden. All these places we hardly ever do stories on because it's too easy. Chicago. I mean, how many stories do you need to see about the black on white crime in Philadelphia that's wildly out of proportion? Thinking of Amber Long. Thinking of the guy who went to take his dog out for a walk. A bunch of black people came by and killed him. This is a very long list. And you're making it longer by agreeing with this nut job who tells you that cops in Philly are picking on black kids, even doing the hands up, don't shoot routine. And you agreed just because you didn't want to make the black kids angry.